Hello, my name is Austin Habbage, the founder of Think Catholic, and you're listening to the Summa podcast, where we study St. Thomas Aquinas' Summa Theologiae in a way simple and insightful for anyone to understand. The Summa podcast is brought to you by Think Catholic. Taking 2 questions of the Summa a day, we'll seek to summarize St. Thomas's responses, discovering the brilliance of Aquinas and his Catholic faith is day 289. So let's get started. We're covering today questions 63 and 64 of the supplement to the Summa. That is, of second marriages and of the things annexed to marriage, and first of all, the payment of the marriage debt. The translation that I always use in these podcasts is the one generously provided to me by Ave Maria Press, the 5-volume set translated by the fathers of the English Dominican province, which you can now get at a discounted price from Ave Maria Press's site by typing in the code SUMMA10, and so here we go. Article 1, whether a second marriage is lawful, as St. Paul said to Timothy in chapter 5 of 1 Timothy, but refused to enroll younger widows. For when they grow wanton against Christ, they desire to marry, and so they incur condemnation for having violated their first pledge. Besides that, they learn to be idlers, gadding about from house to house, not only idlers, but gossips and busybodies, saying what they should not. So I would have younger widows marry, bear children, rule their households, and give the enemy no occasion to revile us. We can combine that with another part of Scripture, Romans 7, to give us our answer to this article. It's written there, a married woman is bound by law to her husband as long as he lives, but if her husband dies, she is discharged from the law concerning the husband. Therefore, we can conclude, based on the witness of Scripture, that a wife or husband, if his or her spouse dies, is then free to remarry. Article 2, whether a second marriage is a sacrament. To quote Aquinas, he tells us, wherever we find the essentials of a sacrament, there is a true sacrament. Wherefore, since in a second marriage we find all the essentials of the sacrament of marriage, it is clear that a second marriage is a sacrament even as a first. Then we turn to question 64 of the things annexed to marriage, and first of the payment of the marriage debt. Article 1, whether husband and wife are mutually bound to the payment of the marriage debt. Aquinas says marriage is directed to the avoiding of fornication, see 1 Corinthians 7:2, but this could not be the effect of marriage if the one were not bound to pay the debt to the other when the latter is troubled with concupiscence. Therefore the payment of the debt is an obligation of precept. Article 2, whether a husband is bound to pay the debt if his wife does not ask for it. And we saw this brought up in a previous question, yet to repeat what was said some time ago here, Aquinas writes, the debt may be demanded in 2 ways. First, explicitly, as when they ask one another by words. Second, implicitly, when namely the husband knows by certain signs that the wife would wish him to pay the debt, but is silent through shame. And so even though she does not ask for the debt explicitly in words, the husband is bound to pay it whenever his wife shows signs of wishing him to do so. And I'm going to drop Article 3 and 4 of this question because the Leonine edition drops them, and they may be a little bit too specific, is the word I'm going to use here on this question in those articles for most people to want to hear. However, feel free, of course, to look at the text if you're interested. Article 5, whether husband and wife are equal in the marriage act. St. Thomas tells us, just as in both the marriage act and in the management of the household is bound to the wife in all things pertaining to the husband, so is the wife bound to the husband in all things pertaining to the wife. It is in this sense that they are equal in paying and demanding the debt. Article 6, whether husband and wife can take a vow contrary to the marriage debt without their mutual consent. Stated briefly by St. Thomas here, a vow can only be about those goods which are subject to our own will, and those in which one person is bound to another do not come under this head. Therefore, in matters of this kind, one person cannot take a vow without the consent of the one to whom he is bound. Consequently, since husband and wife are mutually bound as regards the payment of the debt, which is an obstacle to continence, the one cannot vow continence without the other's consent, and if he take the vow, he sins, and must not keep the vow, must do penance for an ill-taken vow. Article 7, whether it is forbidden to demand the debt on holy days, such as the Sabbath or solemnities, would the marital embrace be forbidden on such days. Aquinas is of the following opinion, although the marriage act is void of sin, nevertheless, since it oppresses the reason on account of the carnal pleasure, it renders man unfit for spiritual things. Therefore, on those days when one ought especially to give one's time to spiritual things, it is not lawful to ask for the debt. Article 8, whether it is a mortal sin to ask for the debt at a holy time. In a sentence from article, a wife or husband does not sin mortally by asking for the debt on a feast day. It is, however, a more grievous sin to ask for the sake of mere pleasure than through fear of the weakness of the flesh. Article 9, whether one spouse is bound to pay the debt to the other at a festal time. Again, since the man's body belongs to his wife, a wife's body belongs to her husband, we have the following words from Aquinas. The wife has power over her husband's body, and vice versa. With regard to the act of procreation, the one is bound to pay the debt to the other at any season or hour with due regard to the decorum required in such matters, for this must not be done at once openly. Article 10, our last article, whether weddings should be forbidden at certain times. And it's worth quoting the response to this article a little at length for the sake of understanding not only the mind of Aquinas, but also what was probably canonical law in his day. St. Thomas writes, when the newly married spouse is given to her husband, the minds of husband and wife are taken up with carnal preoccupations by reason of the very newness of things, wherefore weddings are wont to be signalized by much unrestrained rejoicing. On this account, it is forbidden to celebrate marriages at those times when men ought especially to arise to spiritual things. Those times are from Advent until the Epiphany, because of the communion which, according to the ancient canons, is wont to be made at Christmas, from Lent until the octave day of Easter, on account of the Easter communion, and from the 3 days before the Ascension until the octave day of Pentecost, on account of preparation for communion to be received at that time. And with that, we come to the close of a very brief episode. We've just finished covering questions 63, 64 of the supplement to the Summa. That is of sacrament marriages and of things annexed to marriage, and first of the payment of the marriage debt. My name is Austin Habish with Think Catholic, and I cannot wait to see you tomorrow.